The second type of statistical measures is devoted to the description of the variability or spread of the data. So variability, in other words, this is the spread of the data. So how different the values are from each other. And there are a number of ways variability can be assessed. It includes range, mid-range, mean absolute deviation, variance, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation. So let's go through each of them. So let's revisit the example of individual data, so consumption of cheese per year. So those are the values. We know that there are in total 10 observations. And to calculate the range, we need to take the largest value from the data set and subtract the smallest value. So in case of our data set, the largest value is 6 and the smallest value is 1. So we get that the range is equal to 5. To get the value for the mid-range, we take once again the largest value, add the smallest number, and divide this sum by 2. So in our case, this will be 6 plus 1 divided by 2, so the mid-range is equal to 3.5. Another way the variability of data can be assessed is using mean absolute deviation, and here is the formula. So xi, this is the individual value, so each value from the data set, x with the bar, this is the mean value, the average, and so for each individual observation we subtract the mean value. After this, we take the absolute value of this difference, sum those absolute values, and divide by the number of observations. So the mean value has been found to be 3.4. So we take each value, so we can start with the lowest one. So 1 minus 3.4, we know this will be negative 2.4, but since this is in absolute terms, this will be positive 2.4. And we keep on doing for all the observations. We sum the absolute difference and divide by the total number of observations, which is 10. And we get that the mean absolute deviation is 1.28. So on average, the individual value is different by 1.28 from the mean value. We can also calculate something called the variance for individual data, and if you look at the formula, it's very similar to the mean absolute deviation. It's just instead we square the difference between the individual value and the mean value, and we divide by n minus 1, so the number of observations minus 1. So, and if we use the data from the table and use the formula, we get the following result. The variance for this specific individual data set is equal to 2.489. We can also calculate the standard deviation, and standard deviation is probably the easiest measure to calculate. This is just the square root out of the variance. So we got the variance of 2.489. This is what we got on the previous slide right here. So when we take the square root out of it, we get something approximately equal to 1.578. So this is the standard deviation for this individual data set. And in addition, we can also estimate the coefficient of variation. From this formula, you can see that this is just standard deviation divided by the mean value and multiplied by 100%. So for our specific example, we get that the coefficient of variation is equal to 46.4%. So this is the measure of variability in percentages.